the season's over. We'll talk to Sal a little bit more sparingly here as we get into the offseason, but it is the Super Bowl. There's Myles Garrett speculation and maybe a little bit of a starting point on Bills offseason needs and hopes and wishes now that the proverbial dust has settled. Has it settled in your life? It has in mine.
Yeah.
It's on to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline. How about you, Sal? Has the reality sunk in here that the year's over? It probably has.
Oh, yeah, reality sunk in probably last week, I guess, but still sucks. We'd all be in New Orleans right now doing this show together, actually.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
I did. I talked a good game last week. By Tuesday, I was already on to they're in much better shape than they were at this time last year. And okay, I'm over it. This weekend, we talked earlier in the show. Our friend Sigmund Bloom lives down there. He's tweeting about, I'm here for your restaurant questions and live music and all this stuff. I saw that maybe Saturday morning as I was starting my day. And I was just like, I think I spent the rest of the weekend to some degree just introspectively mourning myself that we weren't going. It was another year's gone by, and it's going to be however many more days until we get another chance and all that. I think that sort of came home. I hurried to a spot where I felt better when I really wasn't ready for it, I think, last week.
Yeah, I hear you. We went to a card show this weekend on Sunday, and it was packed. And, lots of people coming up to me, hey, Sal, how are you? And I can't tell you how many people said, I really wish I wasn't seeing you here. And I'm like, I know, me too, right? I know, I get it. So I think reality set in for a lot of people, but, it's what we do. It's the offseason. Look, guys, honestly, it beats the 17 years of ending 3 weeks ago.
Like a drum, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And, it's better, it's better than that for sure. So, yeah, I'm not I'm not loving it, but at the same time, it's what we do. It's our job.
It has to be considered better, but it's worse in its own certain way that you're so close, right? This is not a wild card team or anything, but we can debate that, I guess, for the next few months, how it feels different. Well, one thing we'll do a lot of is, free agent idea of the day, other guy on other team idea of the day, and pretty good starting point here with Myles Garrett. Sal, your thoughts on the merits of pursuing a trade for him from the Bills position? And then B, what do you think will happen, whether it's them or someone else? Because Cleveland doesn't have to do it. They said that they are not interested in doing it. There's more dead cap waiting for them if they do it. So not a no-brainer, I think, from their standpoint.
Well, I think that the Bills should investigate. There's no doubt. I don't think you have to be so eager to make sure you're the highest bidder. It's got to make sense. Right? What does that bidding look like? Speaking of Sigmund Bloom, I know him and Tyler Dunn and me, we were all in a kind of a thread of conversation today about it because I chimed in, and I think, Sigmund suggested, what are you giving up? Is it 3 number ones? I'm like, that would be way too much. I don't think you can do that. But I do think 2 number ones is probably the starting point of what they're asking for. They probably want 2 number ones, and then you're looking at swaps of picks. That whole, we'll give you a third, you give us a fifth. Maybe there's a player involved. But I think that's what you're looking at. And, the Bills are one of the teams in a position right now that I think it would make sense to land a 29, soon-to-be 30-year-old, whether he is or not. It's going to be 30-year-old year next year in the NFL, pass rusher who still has plenty of time left. Pass rushers can play quite a while. We've seen Von Miller even, right? Guys can do that, and he still had 14 sacks this year, and I think you have to investigate that. I think this is the one position that's really eluded you over this time in this iteration of the Bills. So, you go for it. What Brandon Beane sat up there last week and said, as long as Josh Allen's here, we're going to keep taking swings, and that's the kind of swing you have to take. I get not wanting to mortgage, what you're doing here and trying to build, but, man, at some point, you have to take a swing, I think, like that.
Well, Bean also said at that hour and 15-minute appearance last Thursday, Sal, that you'd love to have a player like Chris Jones, but guys like that aren't made available to you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hello. Here you are. On the compensation piece, I think we'll see how long this lasts. How soon Cleveland does anything with him. It'll probably be a few weeks here at least, I would guess. that will be able to sort of look at it from different angles. One of my first thoughts, Sal, is how would Cleveland view Gregory Rousseau as a piece in this trade? And my thought about this is not because I want to be done with Gregory Rousseau. Like, if I can't pull Myles Garrett into the boat, then, I think I have to be thinking about re-signing and keeping Greg Rousseau on my team. But if I'm going to pay him, Rousseau, somewhere in the neighborhood of $22 to $25 million on a multi-year extension, then I'm not in the Myles Garrett business. But if I'm in the Myles Garrett business and I can pay Myles Garrett roughly $10 million a year more than that, boy, if that takes the place of the third number one pick, I think you still probably are forking over two. But if I can substitute Rousseau, who becomes to an extent expendable by the acquisition of Garrett, then I think I'm cooking here. Like, I think that makes sense to me. I'm opening up a spot financially, and I'm opening up a spot, in the lineup by doing that. And again, this doesn't have to be a negative about Rousseau. I mean, Garrett just outranks him. He outranks just about everyone who plays the position in the sport. So if Cleveland likes Rousseau, then I feel like I've got a leg to stand on.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is to me. I mean, that's a nice player. You really like him. You developed him. He is sitting there on his fifth-year option, guaranteed to make over $13 million this year. Now, I haven't dug too deep on it, but from what I looked at initially on Garrett, he's only due less than $2 million in base salary this year. He does have a bonus coming up, but I don't even think it's that prohibitive. Like, you could get him for so much less than what you're even paying Greg Rousseau this year. So from that standpoint, I agree with you. He's scheduled to count like $19 million on their cap. Not what he'd be counting on a team trading for him, Cap, because obviously they already paid him the bonus. So for that reason, I bet you the compensation would have to be higher, right? The team's like, hey, you're getting this guy. We're taking on most of the salary because we've already paid it, so you're going to have to pay more of a premium in compensation to get him. That would generally be how I would think it would cost. So you're right, Bulldog. I think that now you're probably talking about, okay, you do that, but also if you could shed that salary, and not that anybody, again, we have to say, not that we don't like Greg Rousseau, but at over $13 million a year, I think you're probably already looking to do something with that contract to reduce that number. Well, maybe this is a solution like that. So I don't know. Mike asked me a little while ago how I think it plays out. I don't think it's anything that happens too quickly. Look, generally, like, these things start to percolate. You got to wait till you get first to the combine. That's when everybody gets together. And who knows? Maybe by then, they'll work something out with Myles Garrett. But, man, that was pretty strong for him. This was not a report from Ian Rappaport at Interceptor. Right. This is the dude literally putting it out there in his own words where everybody can see him writing in bold letters, I request a trade from the Cleveland.
Throwing back a quote from the GM from last week in it as well. Like, Cleveland to Canton was a phrasing Barry used in talking about how they wanted to keep Garrett, and Garrett used that, which is no accident. Like, that seems like, yeah, I want to be done with you.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I mean, I don't know if there's a sour relationship that's going on between the two sides. I don't know if it's a relationship that, is irreparable or anything like that, but it feels like, it sounds like they've just both become to an impasse on some level. And it's not financial, right? We know that. And even, like, I was watching today, Schefter or somebody came out and said, this is not a financial issue. Like, his contract's taken care of. He's not saying I need to be paid. This is not a contractual issue. This is literally like, I want to win a Super Bowl, and this is not where it can happen.
Right. With that said, though, you would expect any team acquiring. I mean, I appreciate you laying out how affordable he is for a couple of years. I would expect an acquiring team to, like, tear that up and give him a new market rate contract as the highest paid player in the history of the sport that doesn't throw the football.
Probably right, but you do have 2 years left, right? You can do that. Now he's got void years left in his deal now. But that's not something you have to get to right away. It kind of reminds me of the Stephon Diggs thing. When the Bills traded for Stephon Diggs, it was, okay, at some point he's going to want a new contract. Well, listen, if him and Haw about, I want to be traded because I want to win a Super Bowl, I don't even think you can go to that team and say, give me a new contract. I think it's, all right, I'm going to be here, and I really want to win, and let's visit that at some point. So I think whoever acquires him, if this is like the Bills want to go out and get him, I think it's hey, we're going to do this. You want to be here? We're going to give up a lot to get you. Let's visit the contract after this year.
Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. Sal, you think Von Miller's back?
No. I don't give it a 0% chance. I do think that the Bills and Von could eventually work out something as far as a restructure. He opened that door himself during locker cleanout day, but it's just always looked to me like this is the time where they'll look to move on. To me, it smells more like a post-June 1 cut, like they did with Tre'Davious White last year. And the reason would be because of saving even more money. Now, you would not be able to get that money you save until June 1st. You could release them. And how it would work is just like Tre'Davious White last year, in case people forgot, Tre'Davious White was actually released in March. The player gets to go seek a new team at that time, but the team does not get the actual financial ramifications and benefits of the money they're saving until June 1st, and then it counts for a couple years on the cap, but at least you're not taking on a much bigger dead cap this year. That's what it feels like to me, although if he's really open to whatever kind of redone contract and salary and you can get him down, I think the Bills would at least think about that.
We will talk later in the week about the Super Bowl matchup, but you like your trivia. So
Yeah.
Philadelphia is going to its 5th Super Bowl here, and they will be wearing green jerseys, which they have only worn in Super Bowls. All 5 appearances, they have worn green, which according to UniWatch, fun site, places them second to what team for most consecutive Super Bowl appearances wearing the same colored jersey?
I would immediately say the Dallas Cowboys.
Right. Dallas wore blue in its first Super Bowl appearance, Super Bowl 5, and then has worn white. Has the show ever sounded older than a reference to Dallas being in
Blue.
a championship game even? But white in their last 7 appearances. 2 teams, this is some, you probably have to think about this. I'll just say it, okay? Sorry. Atlanta has been to multiple Super Bowls only wearing color, black once and red once. And Baltimore is the only team to go to multiple and only wear white. So there.
Baltimore Ravens?
Baltimore Ravens, yes. Yeah. Thank you. That's right.
Good clarification, Sal.
Baltimore Colts wore blue and then white. So, yes, that's important. Very good. Yep.
Yeah, but, obviously the Cowboys, because we all know they wear, and for many years they would wear white just at home, right? So whether you'd wear, and then if you get to a Super Bowl, you're generally the team wearing the light color because the other team's going to wear dark color. That wasn't the Cowboys case, which is why that happened. I had always thought this year, one thing I was wondering was if the Commanders had made it to the Super Bowl, would they wear white because they've been wearing white where they've been wearing white all through the playoffs, and it would be a little more like a superstitious thing. But we didn't get that.
Yeah. Let's follow up on that maybe, because I think one of the years New England chose it wore white, right, even though they wore blue at home, one of the Giants games.
That's exactly right.
And Bills Dallas is the only next year Super Bowl rematch. Or no, green. No, that's right, isn't it? That's the only one. And so what Sal is saying, Bills had the choice, then Dallas had the choice, or vice versa, I think, and Dallas wore white. All right, very good. Enough about clothes. Sal, thank you. We'll talk later in the week.
Got it, guys. Thanks.
That's our buddy Sal Capaccio on the